John Lee, and I'm a local realtor with Saam Realty in the Greater Vancouver area.
And my name is Saam Rahim, and I'm the founder of Pulse Digital, a social media agency focused on helping real estate agents.
Perfect. Yeah. Sam, thank you so much for coming on our show today.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. No, so it's funny how we connected, hey, because of social media nowadays. I mean, Instagram is kind of how we linked up. I saw some of your work and also had some mutual connections that, tagged you on posts and stuff. So, you've been doing quite well in the social media space.
Thank you. Yeah. I guess I did a good job of marketing myself on the Instagram, on the Facebook. Yeah.
Right.
But no, I appreciate that. Yeah, I think social media presents a really good opportunity for you to always share your wins. Like you always want to post something that you're wanting to celebrate. But I think the issue with that, oftentimes entrepreneurs like ourselves, we have a tough time sharing like the hard times and the downfalls and all of that. So it's definitely a little bit curated. I think every entrepreneur is like that. They tend to show off like the good times, but trust me, there have been tough times over the years.
Right.
Like growing my agency and everything like that.
Yeah. So well, take me back to a little bit, I guess, of school and I guess how you started, where you came from.
For sure. Yeah. So my parents and I immigrated here from Austria, Vienna. Yeah,
wow.
So like dead center in Europe, and I was born and raised there, lived there for about 11 years of my life before immigrating to Canada.
Okay.
My parents ultimately made that move because they wanted us to be closer to our family that was already living in Vancouver.
Oh.
Yeah, and then so I've been here since 2006, and it's been a crazy journey for sure. Like having grown up in that environment and then moving to Canada, but yeah, I love this place. Yeah.
Right. I've been to Austria before, just kind of traveling around Europe with my family too. It really struck out to me.
Yeah, no, it's a cool place for sure. And then my parents are like their nationality is Iranian, so they're born and raised in Iran. And then I've never been there myself, but I'm Persian technically, but then my nationality is Austrian since I was born there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then moved to Vancouver about 14, 15 years ago.
Wow. Yeah. So take me through that. I guess the transition of growing up, in a Persian family, living in Austria, which is a different culture, different environment, and then coming to Vancouver.
Yeah. I've always felt like the outsider, no matter where I've been. Yeah, because even being born and raised in Austria, I would always stand out in school as being like ethnic, right? Like I was the brown kid amongst like all the European like white kids, and so that always stood out. And my name, I guess, it's spelled with two A's technically, so the correct pronunciation is Saam.
Okay.
And then also in German, like because they speak German in Austria, Sam isn't really a common name at all. So people always like had tough times like pronouncing my name, and I always felt like a little bit of like an outsider. But and that didn't really change moving to Canada because at first I was the Persian guy who lives in Austria, but now I'm the Persian guy who used to live in Austria that's now living in Canada. So I always felt like a little bit of an outcast. But I mean, like the Canadian education system's been great. Like I was accepted quite well into this country for sure. Yeah. I would say the toughest part though, like the biggest tribulation for sure, was just adapting to learning a new language, changing schools, and just keeping up with the education system. I think that's always been a little bit tougher for me, like kind of coming from my background and then moving back and forwards from place to place.
For sure. And how did you overcome that? Because that's a really big hurdle for a lot of people, right? Coming from, I grew up in Taiwan for parts of my life. So long story short, I was kind of born and raised here in Vancouver. And then my parents, we went back to Taiwan for 3 years, where I was originally from, to kind of learn Mandarin, to understand the culture, because they were afraid I would lose that side of me. Right. And I came back in high school. So then there was the transition.
Oh, so there was a bit of back and forwards as well.
Yeah. So then the language was one thing, right? And I also felt like keeping up, not only learning the language, but keeping up with the education system in a different language.
For sure.
That was.
So you kind of felt that too then?
I felt that, like as an outsider, I totally could relate to.
Yeah. So it's definitely a lot to overcome, I think, especially as someone who doesn't perform well in school. And I've never considered myself as being like a good student in any means. So I would say the toughest part of it is just between, let's say, ages of like grade 1 all the way to grade 12. A lot of your measure to success is based on your performance in school, right? It's
correct.
Your parents thinking, like immigrant parents also thinking that the better you do in school, the better you're off outside of school and you're able to be more successful. And then at the same time, all your influences, such as your teachers and your peers, they're really focused on that as well. It's like, the better you perform in school, the better of a chance you have in being successful in life. So
right.
yeah, I would say the biggest difficulty for me has always been feeling like I'm worthy of success because I never did well in school. So
right.
I always associated not doing well in school in terms of like not succeeding in life. So yeah, I would say that was probably the toughest thing that I had to navigate throughout the years. Yeah. And it wasn't for a long time until I kind of broke through that mindset. Yeah.
Right. That's so true. I feel like even like coming back to my parents, like they didn't have an opportunity to have a education, right, or a higher level education such as university back home, and so they wanted a better life for us. Hence, they immigrated us here for a better future, and then they want us to go through school, right? But
of course,
they think that school is the only way to achieve success.
A lot of them do, and you can't fault them in a way. It's because again, I understand the opportunities that we're given, right? That our parents or our grandparents weren't given. My grandpa, for example, used to be a politician in Iran, like pre-1979, the revolution and everything like that. So he was at the height of his career. But after the Shah government was overthrown, essentially he was given the choice of joining the new political system or essentially being thrown into prison. So him at, I think it was around in his mid 40s or early 40s, at the height of his career, had to leave everything behind and like immigrate to Toronto. And the first job that he had was putting paper ads on windshields on cars. So that's kind of like, that's kind of the story of like my grandparents like moving like on my mom's side of immigrating and making so many sacrifices, and so like understanding that, I get where they're coming from, but also at the end of the day, it's just they don't know any better either, because they just know that like education to them is so valuable because they have been taught that that's the only way for their children to succeed. So they're kind of projecting that onto the kids, which is a good thing and a bad thing for sure. I think it definitely pushes kids to pursue greater things. But again, like 21st century, there's so many other ways to be successful and to achieve success. Yeah.
That's so true. And on that note, it's kind of like they grew up in a different time and era. So they mean good intentions, obviously. They want the best for you, right, as their parents. But at the same time, like, their idea of what success is in a different era.
The landscape's so different.
Yeah.
Because I bet you 9 times out of 10, all the parents, and your parents might agree on this, is like the way they measure success is your financial position outside of school. Like, how much are you making? Are you making 100 grand or making 150 grand, whatever it is? Like, they're like, oh, if they're making good money, they can support themselves and support their families.
Right.
But what they don't understand, and I would say, like, my friends' parents, my parents, all of that, is that there's so many different ways to make money these days that the internet has really introduced,
Yes.
Like, I talk to a lot of, like, I guess my elders, my family members about Amazon FBA, like white labeling stuff, outsourcing in China, shipping it to US and selling on Amazon, and people making 6 figures a month doing that. And it blows their mind. They have like no idea that these options are out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And those are all types of entrepreneurial paths that don't require the traditional educational path. You can just spend some time, really study Amazon FBA, save up some money, and you can make it happen. And if your parents' measure of success is the financial stability and the financial income, so many different ways to do it.
Right. That's what people fail to realize, right? Is like there are endless opportunities online as well.
For sure.
And I think like for you, back to your point, I feel like a lot of it comes from the upbringing. So if you don't excel academically, from grade 1 to grade 12, you already feel like you've lost in life. Like you feel like you're not worthy of achieving anything. So then you kind of you don't go for it, right? So how did you break out of that shell? Because like you've kind of grown up being suppressed, like I'm not good enough. I'm not like my peers are getting straight A's. I can't do anything good in life. Like, how do you break out of that shell mentally? I think that's the first big barrier.
And I think that's why a lot of people have a tough time breaking out of that mindset, is because you really do get stuck in that mindset. Yeah, because like year after year, you're going to school. Every year, you're getting the grades. Every year, you might not be doing that well. So it becomes a systematic thing for like several years. And it's like, how do you undo that? How do you go the other way? I think for me, it really helped like starting to build my core confidence in just all areas of life. It was honestly as simple as starting to go to the gym and making a habit of it. And I think the gym actually played, like, it's actually kind of funny to say, but the gym played a big role in it. Like at the time, I'm not as big as I used to be, obviously. I've neglected the gym for the last little bit. But what going to the gym taught me was that consistently putting your mind to something and putting the work in every day or every week will get you the results. And with the gym too, you see the results like like with your eyes, right? Like you check in the mirror next time and your biceps are looking a little bigger or your pecs are looking a little bigger. So that starts to spring and jumpstart like a motivational pattern of like, oh, I put in the work and then I see the results coming after that, and put in the work, see the results, and really putting my mind to it. So I started to apply that same mentality of like, okay, if I really set my mind to something else, will I be able to see a similar kind of success? So it was just bit by bit, like building up my confidence first in like my physical appearance by going to the gym, but also my mindset around committing myself to something like the gym.
Right.
That slowly helped me break out of that. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't like a clear path after that really either, because I knew that I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always wanted to run my own business.
Deep down inside, like that, you had that.
I always
burning...
had those tendencies.
Yeah.
But the first 6 or 7 businesses, like they really didn't work out. Yeah, it wasn't until like this company that I'm running right now where I actually found success.
Yeah.
But to answer your question of how did I break out of that, I think it was just really focusing on myself, and I think that's what a lot of people that might be in a similar position need to prioritize is themselves first. Like get your mental straight, get your health straight, like make sure that you are just very solid, like from your inner core.
Right. I think someone said there's like 4 pillars to success. It's like health is number 1, and then there's wealth, and then there's love, and then there's happiness, right? So I think you brought up a really good point of daily consistent actions where you can see the results day in and day out, and that will lead to, achieving your goals, for example. And how did you get into the habit? Because then again, in modern society, right, people have the tendency they look at Instagram models, people flashing their whips, right, their watches, the money, the girl, like people want it instantly.
For sure.
So this takes time to build up, and people don't understand, they get discouraged, they go to the gym maybe twice a week for a month, and then they don't see results and they kind of quit, right? So,
again, people celebrate their success on social media. Like you just see the highlights. Yeah.
So like from your point of view, like is it because like people don't start because they have set too big of a goal that it almost feels like it's unattainable, that's stopping them from taking even a step towards that?
I think that's a big one. Yeah, that definitely plays a role in it. I think we're just like speaking on the millennials' behalf, it's like you're very impatient, right? It's like generation now, like you see someone being successful, and then you try to do it for a month and you're like, why am I not there yet, kind of a thing, right? And I think social media definitely adds fuel to the fire of people just showing off their highlight reels and people showing off their bodies where they've been, like what you see is like the perfect physique, but what you don't know is like the 3 years where they went to the gym like 5-6 days a week, like meal prepped every single day. Like people don't see that part. So I think that definitely adds fuel to the fire of like people wanting things a little bit faster, not being patient. But I think honestly starting from just making sure that your self-confidence is there, because ultimately, especially as an entrepreneur, I'm sure you relate to this too, it's like you need to depend on yourself, and you need to get yourself to a point where you can't be dependent on others, because at the end of the day, like a lot of situations, you never know what life throws at you. But at the end of the day, you need to know that you can count on yourself to pull yourself out of anything that happens. And and I think that really just stems from focusing on your core and really making sure that you are just mentally and physically in a space where you're very positive and very good.
That's so important.
Very stable.
Because I feel like we tend to kind of chase after the goals, right? But we don't make sure that we're well equipped to take on the challenges ahead of us, right?
For sure.
And I feel like you mentioned like mental health and physical health. I think that's something that anyone, regardless of their age or career, can really take on and really address those, because it is like your physical, like how you look, it and how people think you look, like that really affects your confidence. So that was the first big hurdle that you overcame.
That was the first shift.
The confidence of you're having a good physical body, like looking good, feeling good, right? And
for sure.
On that note, like how did you work on your mindset of becoming positive? Like how did that switch work from there?
So again, like it was the whole like building consistency with my mindset too, because I proved to myself that I could stick to something for multiple months on end. And actually getting the results. So I was like, okay, if my mind is up to doing that, then I can apply this to other areas of my life too.
Wow.
Yeah. So I would say that like, again, like that helped a lot. In terms of just staying consistent with something and sticking to it. And I think really believing in yourself. I think no matter what idea you have or whatever profession you're taking on, you need to really deep down believe that you're capable of executing on it. Because if you if you're not in a space where you feel confident about what you're doing, about your craft, then it's gonna show up in your work at the end of the day, and it's gonna really hold you back. So I think really just getting that self-confidence up is so key. Like I wouldn't even start anywhere else. I would just work on the self-confidence first.
I think that's so important.
Yeah.
I think people miss that. People miss the foundation.
Of course, it is. It's totally the foundation. Yeah. It's laying the foundation for everything else. Everything else will stem from that.
So
you need to make sure the core is set.
The core, the physical, the mental. Once you have that set, then you can achieve anything.
Exactly.
Right? That's so important.
Yeah.
Like it blows your mind how like simple it is, right?
Yeah.
But it like had such a big impact on your life.
For sure.
So you were going to the gym like a couple times a week?
Yeah, I went. Yeah, I was very lucky to have a cousin who we both got into the whole routine of going to the gym together at the same time. So he really motivated me on the days I didn't want to go, and I motivated him on the days he didn't want to go. And he's just a year younger than me, so it was perfect. But yeah, we were going like 5-6 days a week.
Wow.
And we stuck to that for 2 years.
2 years straight, just every day.
Just 2 years straight, just stuck to it. And then, I mean, like it just started to trickle into other areas of life. I think it's one of those things where like all it takes is like a positive attitude or a positive thing in your life to happen or for you to attach yourself to, and then all these other blessings start opening up.
That's amazing. Another nugget I picked out was having an accountability partner. So
for sure,
find someone who's kind of on the same path to achieve that success, whether that's getting in shape or starting a business, but have someone there to hold you accountable on the days that you don't feel like doing, right?
I mean, you met them earlier, like Sam Park in that room over there.
Yeah.
Quick shout out to Sam. And then Brandon, you as well. Like those two guys, like they're just as motivated as me. And on the days where I don't feel like I want to be as productive, I literally have them texting me, calling me, FaceTiming me, just to get me out to the office so we can put in the work together. Yeah. So it really helps to surround yourself around like-minded people.
Right.
For sure.
That's so important. Okay, so take me through that. So you started working out, right? And then you're still in school. What grade were you in when you had this?
This was after I just dropped out of university, first year university. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So like a little bit more context about that part. So I ended up graduating from high school with just like good enough grades to get into UVic and study social sciences.
Okay.
I think back then the average you needed was like 72, 73%.
Yeah.
And I was really working my ass off during that last year because I wanted to prove to myself that I could be successful by getting into a good school.
Right.
But that honestly ended up shooting me in the foot because going to UVic meant living a year abroad, like on the island. But I was taking on a student loan because I've paid for my education like this whole time, and ended up studying something I wasn't passionate about, ended up dropping out of like failing a lot of courses essentially, and then ultimately dropping out with like a 10K bill at the end of it. So it was very demotivating. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So after that, I really took a step back and I really had to reconsider what I wanted to do with my life and what I was passionate about. And that was around the time when I started to go to the gym, when I started to take a step back and travel a little bit. I got to travel to Australia because my grandpa had a place there at the time, and then also South America for a couple months. And it was during those experiences where my mind started thinking about like launching a clothing line, launching an online business, launching all these things where I eventually came back. I was in a really good rhythm with the gym, really good rhythm mindset wise, and just started taking chances on things. So the first business I tried was a clothing line. Called Everyday Apparel. Every day, because like the mentality behind it was like do what you love every day. So I've been a big advocate of that since day one. And like that clothing line completely just crashed and burned. Because I was just making so many mistakes with it. But that at least gave me the confidence to put myself out there. And for things, the biggest blessing of doing that is that every time that you put yourself out there and something doesn't go your way, then the next time you do it, it's a little bit easier to recover from the failure, if you know what I mean.
Get used to failing.
Get used to failure.
That's the message here.
For sure. Yeah. Getting used to the failures, because it's really scary to put yourself out there and to show people what you're passionate about in a way. Because I remember at the time when I wanted to launch my clothing line, I had the t-shirts printed, I had my brand ready, I had everything ready, but I was so afraid to get it out to show people because I was afraid of what if it failed, right? I'm gonna look stupid, they're gonna judge me, I'm just gonna look like this huge failure. And it took me a really long time to release my clothes to eventually get to the failure. But I'm really glad that I did that because it taught me the lesson of like, okay, let me cross it off the list, I'm on to the next thing, and then on to the next, until you get to that thing that really clicks. So
trial and error.
Yeah.
And how did you take that first idea and transition that into your clothing line, like because a lot of people I guess they would burn out or they would feel like they're not gonna succeed, so they don't even try. They might have a good idea in their head, but they don't even